I want to share some pretty interesting financial news that's causing quite a stir in the political scene over in Europe. There's been some serious division in the European Union on how to deal with billions of euros that are just sitting frozen. On top of that, Brussels has made a surprising shift in its environmental policy, and law enforcement is giving a pretty chilling heads up about what's coming in the next decade. We've got rising tensions in Germany, farmers really upset in France, political shakeups in Britain, and a story from Italy that's just unbelievable. But hold on, because I've saved the juiciest bit for last. After years working for one of those big-name news organizations, the kind everyone knows and recognizes, I couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of watching editors twist stories to fit certain agendas where inconvenient facts got swept under the rug and narratives became more important than the truth. So I decided to step away from that whole operation. Now, I work for myself, and I only answer to you. I'm here to deliver the unfiltered reality that matters. If you appreciate this independent style of reporting, I'd love for you to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I'm committed to doing the heavy lifting when it comes to fact-checking and sorting through the noise so you don't end up with a bunch of misinformation. This work isn't easy. It takes a lot of time and dedication. Your support, whether through a subscription or considering sponsoring, really helps keep everything going. I'm asking you as a fellow person to help keep this rolling and to stick around because what I have saved for the end is going to change how you perceive everything going on right now. So let's get into the heart of it. The European Union has just made a bold move, and European media outlets are calling it audacious. They've decided to freeze Russian central bank assets indefinitely, and we're looking at about 210 billion euros just sitting here in Europe. This isn't a quick hold. They're calling it an indefinite immobilization. Most of that money, around 185 billion euros, is parked in Euroclear, the central securities depository based in Brussels, while the rest, about 25 billion euros, is scattered across banks in 5 EU member states. Analysts in Europe are already telling people that this situation looks pretty irreversible. The money is locked down for good, no turning back. But here's where the unity that everyone talks about starts to show some cracks. 4 EU countries, Belgium, Bulgaria, Malta, and Italy, have come out against using these frozen assets for anything. So let's talk about the situation with Ukraine and this reparations loan idea. Now, some folks are really pushing for alternative ways to get financing instead of going this route. And this isn't just some symbolic disagreement. There are serious issues with the whole idea of using frozen Russian assets. For countries like Italy and France, it could lead to increased national debt, which is just not going to fly with them. Plus, getting this approved requires everyone in the EU to agree, and countries like Hungary can just block it all if they want to. And they're not the only ones. Slovakia has also come out against this loan concept. With Belgium, Italy, Malta, and Bulgaria all chiming in with criticism, it feels like the chances of reaching any agreement at the upcoming summit on December 18th are looking pretty bleak. Unity? More like division. Now, speaking of divisions, let's switch gears to what just went down in the Czech Republic. The new prime minister there, Andrej Babiš, made it very clear that the Czech Republic isn't interested in guaranteeing any financing for other countries. He said it straight: no guarantees, no investments. They just don't have the funds to spare, and he's telling the European Commission to find other ways to support those in need. This is a clear message coming from him. Now, about that meeting of his with Ursula von der Leyen, it stirred up quite a bit of attention. You have to notice the lack of any of that usual diplomatic warmth. No hugs or kisses exchanged, just a classic bouquet of flowers handed over by Babiš, which caught Ursula a bit off guard. She even looked surprised checking in with her aides after receiving them. They talked in French, which the media made a point to highlight. Later on, von der Leyen hopped onto Elon Musk's platform, calling the meeting with Babiš a productive one and appreciating his role in boosting Europe's competitiveness. But while many are focused on these little diplomatic gestures, what really matters is what they reveal about shifting power dynamics and national priorities in Europe. And things are getting even more interesting, as the European Union leadership is now looking at imposing tariffs on cheap imports. So it looks like starting in July 2026, things are about to change for a lot of shoppers in Europe. Up until now, if a package was worth less than 150 euros, it could come in duty-free, which sounded great but created some huge problems. The European Union has pointed out that this system leads to lots and lots of packaging waste, plus it's opened the door for a lot of fraud. It turns out that around 65% of packages declared a value that's way lower just to dodge tariffs. With so many ultra-cheap goods flooding in from China, European companies are really struggling to keep up. Every day, about 12 million of these little packages come into the European Union, and it's getting pretty overwhelming. Now, with this new tariff, each package will have a fixed cost added, at least €3 more. It's still a bit fuzzy who will actually feel the pinch on the pricing, sellers or buyers. In theory, big marketplaces like Shein, AliExpress, and Amazon might help absorb some of that cost. But let's be real, prices for customers are likely going to go up. That's just the way it is, and it's something people need to brace for. Down the line, there are plans to apply tariffs on all goods from the first euro onward, which is quite the shift. Now, there's something else stirring the pot. The EU has had a change of heart about banning internal combustion engine vehicles completely. Instead, they're aiming for a softer target with a goal of a 90% reduction in emissions. This means that gas and diesel cars won't be outright banned. They'll still be allowed in limited numbers. Manfred Weber, who is the head of the European People's Party group, even confirmed that after 2040, making new cars with internal combustion engines won't completely stop in the EU. This decision gives consumers more choices because after 2035, they can still buy new cars with combustion engines or go for used ones. But wait, there's more on the horizon that's gotten quite a bit of buzz. Europol has put out a warning in their latest report about potential unrest in Europe over the next 10 years due to rising unemployment. That definitely adds another layer to everything going on right now. So here's the deal. There are some really angry crowds of unemployed folks hitting the streets, and they're not just taking a leisurely stroll. They're out there protesting against robots taking their jobs. According to a document from the European Union Police Agency, you might think this sounds like something straight out of a science fiction flick, but it's actually becoming our new reality, and there's no way around it. Displaced workers, especially those in struggling urban areas, are going to be on the front lines, taking their grievances public. That's the warning from Europol, and it's one we should all take seriously. Now, speaking of matters that are stirring up quite the conversation, Wolfgang Ischinger, the chairman of the Munich Security Conference, made a bold claim in an interview with German media. He said, while Ukraine is battling, Europe is in a relatively safe bubble. This isn't just his unique take. It echoes sentiments from other European leaders who are basically saying that ending the war isn't in Europe's best interest. That really speaks volumes about the current mindset of some leaders. Adding another layer to this grim picture, there's a new report highlighting global inequality, and it's pretty stark. It references how an astonishing amount of wealth and power is concentrated in the hands of a select few. What used to be brushed off as conspiracy theories is now out in the open for everyone to see. A small group is pulling the strings when it comes to most of the world's wealth, and this is a significant amount of power. While average folks like middle-class workers, teachers, and engineers are shelling out a lot of their hard-earned money in taxes, the taxes for billionaires are mysteriously going down. Meanwhile, experts are quick to point out that this state of inequality isn't a natural outcome of free markets, not even close. A lot of countries are stuck in patterns that resemble the old colonial days, where they still act like colonies to the more powerful nations. Even if it's officially denied, this is something we're all aware of. It's interesting to note that these issues are primarily being discussed in European news right now. This is the reality we're facing today. And the situation in Germany is pretty tense these days. Just recently in the town of Duderstadt in Lower Saxony, police had to clear out an entire Christmas market after reports of a potential threat surfaced. Eyewitnesses mentioned spotting a young man with a firearm, which must have been quite alarming. It's definitely a time filled with uncertainty. So here's what's been going on. In Germany, there was a serious scare when law enforcement had to organize an evacuation in a public square because over 100 people were there at the time. They immediately started searching for a suspect, but by nightfall, they told everyone that they hadn't found any concrete threats. After hours of looking, the suspect was still missing. It's still a mystery whether the weapon involved was real or where this person vanished to. The whole situation has created a lot of tension, and understandably, people are feeling nervous and scared. Then there's what's happening over in France, which is just awful. There's been a breakout of something called lumpy skin disease in cattle, and they've started culling sick livestock. Farmers are outraged and are taking to the streets to protest, especially since neighboring Spain is dealing with its own crisis involving African swine fever. Things are not looking good there either, with culling happening and authorities suspecting it might come from a lab leak. That notion has got a lot of farmers worried and filled with questions, since all of this isn't random. To tackle the outbreak, the French agriculture minister announced that they're planning to vaccinate 1 million cattle in the coming weeks against this dangerous disease. But if it keeps spreading on farms, they could be looking at the loss of 1.5 million cattle. This means there will be mandatory protective measures in place, and nobody will be asked for their permission. The minister was very clear about this, emphasizing that in some instances, complete culling is absolutely necessary since the disease can be sneaky and show no symptoms at all. So, to play it safe, culling has to happen. It's downright heartbreaking for livestock farming, especially with the pressure of Ursula von der Leyen's big signing deal with the Mercosur countries coming up on the 20th of December. Farmers, especially in France and Poland, are opposing this trade deal, and it seems like their voices are falling on deaf ears. There's also a lot of chatter today about a message from Britain. Prime Minister Starmer is making a big push for junior doctors to accept a new agreement. He thinks it's just unbelievable that they would even consider striking right now, especially with this super flu causing record numbers of hospitalizations across the country. Starmer has been sounding the alarm, saying the National Health Service is facing its biggest challenge since the pandemic. He really believes that strikes in this situation could put patients' lives at risk, as well as throw the whole system into chaos. So it's going to be interesting to see if the healthcare workers take his warnings seriously. On another note, there's some big political news. A new party called Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has just surpassed the ruling Labour Party in membership numbers. Can you imagine? Farage's party now has 270,000 members, while Starmer's Labour Party is trailing with just 250,000. It's a clear sign that the political landscape is changing fast. Meanwhile, over in Berlin this weekend, the well-known Keith Kellogg is set to meet with Zelensky and European leaders to talk about a peace plan. This meeting is getting a lot of attention because the White House is pushing for an agreement to end the war before the year wraps up. Everyone's on the edge of their seat, waiting to see what happens next. And just to brighten things up, there's a quirky story from the lovely town of Gallatin in Italy. Police caught a wanted criminal trying to hide out between a nativity scene featuring Mary and Joseph in the town square. This 38-year-old guy thought he could blend in, but he was caught when he didn't stay still. The mayor even said he mistook the guy for another life-sized figure until he noticed him moving. Apparently, he even took a picture. The mayor asked if everything was okay, and the criminal just replied, "Yep, all good." Now that's a funny way to get caught. So, here's a wild story from the other day. A man decided to spend the night right in a nativity scene. Imagine that. It didn't take long for the mayor to notice, and he ended up calling the police. Turns out they did a quick check and found out he was from Ghana, and he had been on the run for weeks after escaping from Bologna. Can you believe if the guy hadn't moved at all, the mayor wouldn't have had a clue? It's just one of those things that happen these days. Now, today's been pretty packed with some pretty heavy topics. We've been looking at the tense financial situation in Brussels and the hidden dangers of automation. Really complex stuff that many just brush aside. Every day, bringing this analysis to you is no easy task. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and we refuse to give in to easy answers. We dig deep, double-check everything, and stick to the hard truths, no matter how unpolished they might be. And let's be honest, independent journalism isn't just tough, it's costly too. We don't have big corporations backing us, it's just us and you. If you appreciate this effort and want to support a voice that stands firm against the usual narratives, hitting that like button and subscribing really helps. If you're able to consider sponsoring the channel, even in a small way, it makes a huge difference. It helps us keep the lights on and the facts accurate. You all are the reason we can keep fighting against fake news. Thanks for sticking with us. Stay aware and take care of each other.